Okie dokie. I think it's working. Good morning. We are live. Awesome. Good morning, everyone. I am Jillian Conley with the CEO Woman. We have had a name change over the weekend, and I'm here with Kelly Featheringham from Team Leadership Solutions. Good morning.
Good morning.
How was your weekend?
It was lovely.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, it was good. It was very excited to hear all about the brand change, so
yeah,
it was
me
fun.
too. It was great. And for anyone who missed it, this weekend on Saturday, we celebrated our fifth anniversary as the CEO Consulting Group. And as a part of that celebration, have rebranded to the CEO Woman. And we're really excited about that. I'll put a link um, in the comments on Facebook for anyone who might have missed our story, our video that we had made. I'm going to drop that in there now. So if anybody wants to watch that video, you can. But we have made the decision to go deeper with our intentions as a company and getting very, very clear about who we are, who we serve, and what we do. And after 5 years of being in business, it makes it so much easier to do that because you have 5 years of metrics. You have 5 years of learning. You have 5 years of making mistakes and then finding solutions. And so when you get to that place where you're like, maybe it's time to rebrand, it's really quite amazing because the process of rebranding is like a rebirth for your business. And it's not as easy as people think it is, especially if you already have an established brand and you're connected to that brand. Maybe you built it or, it was the original brand for your business, and it can be really hard to transition. But when you're looking at your client base and you're reading your reviews and your testimonials and all the information, the feedback loop that comes from being in business, if you're paying attention, you might find that it now might be a good time to rebrand a little bit. Maybe even from a messaging perspective. And with the CEO Woman, our messaging became, we wanted to get it really clear and concise. We wanted to break it down into intentional, meaningful bites of information that can help people feel empowered. So making our brand more accessible to more people is our goal. And when you start to go through the rebrand process and assess your messaging, I think it's really interesting how you'll read things that you've written before and go, I don't like how that's said. That's not how I speak, or that's not my voice. That's not my tone. I don't talk like that. And it's just taking a moment to audit their stuff and go, if it's not sitting well with you, maybe it's time to change it to something you would like. Now, have you ever been through a rebrand?
I have actually. It's funny you say that because when I met Tina a few years back, I guess, gosh, it's been 4 years now. The very first time I met her at the summit, and then I had a one-on-one strategy call with her, and the very first thing she asked me is, "Are you open to a name change?" Like literally, that was the first thing she said to me, and I was like, "Sure, I'm open to anything. I don't know what I'm doing here, which is why I'm talking to you, because my
Mhm,
name of my company was Kelly Featheringham LLC, just based off of my name. Because when I started the company, I had no idea
mhm,
really what I was doing or what I should do. So that's what she said is, no one really knows what you do based on your name. I mean, it's nice you have your name, but perhaps if you did something that was um, more specific to the services you provide, it would be one less of a hurdle when you're meeting new people. So
right,
now team leadership solutions, right? Already you have some idea that I'm going to do something about leaderships or teams or hopefully solutions.
right. Yeah, I love that. I think it's really interesting too, even with us in our rebrand, when we were going through our website, we have a whole new website. I'm going to pull it up and I'll share the screen. When we were writing our copy for the website, it was really interesting to um, start reframing things for our brand, a brand that has been established for a long time, that has like a community of people and really a reputation to it. People know the names of our programs, and that's really great, except for new people don't. And what we had to do is we had to get out of our comfort zone a little bit in our messaging and change the way we name things, change the way we describe things, change how we address our audiences in various different places. So our programs, for example, all of our programs had like very cute, catchy names. Tina likes acronyms. So we had OMG, which was Optimization Mastermind mastermind group, and that's group accountability program that we have. And then we have Fab5, which was the original vision of the company, and that was one-on-one accountability and mentorship and coaching. And then there's the business school options as well. And then what we realized is if you aren't in our inner circle, Fab5 doesn't describe anything. If you're not in our inner circle, like you wouldn't know if that was the right fit for you based off of how we named it or even based how we described it, honestly. And so taking some time to like humble ourselves and go, okay, we need to change this, but to what extent do we need to change it? And our decision as a company was to move towards literal explanation. And the reason why we did that is both for SEO and for clarity around our messaging, because we really wanted to make sure that people understand what we offer, their next steps and pathway forward, and where they can plug in if it's necessary for them to plug in, especially wherever they are in that season of their business. Since none of the programs that we offer are cookie cutter, they meet you where you are. It's important that people can find what they're looking for and then find the right person to work with. And so by getting a little bit more literal in our messaging, I think that we've been able to clarify questions that we've had before based off of like the more creative messaging, stuff that kind of sounds more whimsical, but then doesn't actually give you any information. Last week, when we were on Marketing Monday, we kind of talked a little bit about, sorry, let me change my screen. We kind of talked a little, or I talked a little bit with them about having when you have your message mapped out and you have clarity around it, then from there, that's always your jumping off point. So for example, your business might have 36 evergreen messages that are just consistently true, is what evergreen is, things that are true for an extended period of time. So not just like 6 weeks, but like maybe 2, 3, 6 years, things that are always true. And when you can identify your key messages, you can then start there to go, do I like how I say that? Do I feel like my audience likes how I say that? Do I feel like my audience connects and identifies and understands what I'm offering when I speak this way? And really dive into it to gain the clarity that you need, because ambiguity will detract all your buying power. And if your brand is ambiguous and vague, that might be part of the reason why people don't click buy now or schedule now or whatever the call to action is on the website, is because they're like, well, I see you using really positive language, like, oh, you can be the leader you always wanted to be. Oh, cool, I want that, but how? And then there's no further explanation. It's just trust me and do it. And that kind of marketing can be really tricky, because if they don't know you personally, there is no trust me and do it. And if you have plans to scale and grow, trust me and do it is not a strategy. It just is not. And so with the marketing, building out the foundation of our 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 brand from the perspective of strength and equality, and knowing that we want to position ourselves as an authority in the topic. We want to position ourselves as a trustworthy advisor and partner in the community. And by understanding these different elements through going through our messaging and revamping everything, we become very, very clear on where we're going, what we're doing, and how we're going to get there. And that clarity is magic for a business, like absolute, like pixie dust dropped onto it. But to segue out of the branding conversation, because what we really wanted to talk about was, or is to talk about, I'm going to call it internal and external customer service. That's what I'm going to talk about. Your brand, let's pretend you have your brand buttoned up, perfect, beautiful, SEO'd. It's consistent, it's clear, it's concise, it has the best look and feel. People love it, people gravitate towards it. Let's say you have that. Brands that have that, but then fail at their customer service, fail their brand. And they don't always realize how significant that failure point can be. And I want to give a story and then I'm going to ask you some questions, Kelly. And so when I was working at Whole Foods Market like a decade ago, I remember with this store opening in Ashburn. I remember we got celebrated for having for having the most successful store opening. We surpassed our goal that week significantly by like 500%. Like it was amazing. And the store's basket size and number of people going through it were really high, way higher than they projected for that city, for Ashburn, Virginia. And so in the very first few weeks of the opening, it was all celebration. Just wow, amazing, wow, amazing. Until about 3 weeks in, and I remember this so clearly, about 3 weeks in, the complaints were coming in faster than the team was handling them. And it was because they could not find people to travel and work at that store that were experienced. So damn near everyone that was hired was brand new. And if they weren't brand new, they had never been in that role before. So they were like being given a promotion that they probably weren't necessarily taught or qualified for. So the store's customer service was so bad that the teams would fight with each other over whose mistake was what. Who didn't get the prepared foods done faster? Who didn't do whatever? And it caused so much tension in the beginning of our store opening. It made it very negative and it made it like siloed. People were like, I don't know who to trust. I don't know where to go. I don't know if they have my back or my best interest in mind. And when your team starts doing that, the people who touch your clients first, when they start doing that, that spews out into the community. And when it spews out into the community, you never know who's trustworthy to be an empathetic listener. They may not be. They might be going, you're oversharing. And this is just, disappointing. And I'm upset about this experience. And I don't want to be a part of this. And you could easily lose a customer just by not having good internal leadership that trains your staff in a way that prepares them to be successful in their job so that they can care for your clients well. And that's the segue I want to talk about is how do you go, my brand is done and established. Perfect. Now, what do you do to care for your team so that they care for your people, so that your people retain, so that your people come back? Because we know it costs a billion times more to get a new client than it does to retain one. So how do we get there? We got our foundation built, we have the structure. Now, how do we lead both internal and external people into a cohesive long-term working relationship? So Kelly, I'd love to hear your expertise on this, and I'm going to let you just go as long as you would like. Sorry for taking this so much at the beginning of this call.
No, no, I love it. I love it. And it's such a great question and it's not an easy answer, right? It's not going to be one dimensional because as you said, there's so many moving parts in situations like that and just in general to make sure that you're having a cohesive strategy, both internal and external, and then one that works together with
Mhm.
respect to employees and things like that. I sympathize for everybody involved in that situation because sometimes we get excited in business to do things and we don't I don't even want to say we don't consider all of all of the complications, but sometimes we can't consider all of the things. Like maybe they didn't realize that it would be that big of an amazing open and all of the things, and maybe the training ramp up was not as long as needed. And there's so many different things that can go wrong all the time, or
Mhm.
that can go less than optimally.
Right,
And like you said, it's kind of a cascade failure then, right? The dominoes start to fall, and then how do you step that back?
right.
So, I guess those are three or four different
It's a good
buckets
one.
that we can
Yeah.
talk about, right?
Mhm.
So I'll take I'm going to start at the beginning, I think,
Perfect.
probably
Mhm.
in preparing for something like that. We're talking about brand change and making sure we're clear about our service offerings or our product offerings and things like that. How do you get your employees, how do you get your staff ready for something like that to make sure that everybody is on the same page and you don't kind of enter that cascade failure phase? I think
Right.
the first thing is awareness,
Yeah.
making sure that we share as much with our employees as we can and how much is appropriate. We certainly want to dump everything on them because there are things that they really just don't need to know. It's clutter in our minds as business owners and business leaders of teams.
Mhm,
But the more transparent we can be about what's coming
mhm,
and what we expect and what we think might be some of the challenges or some of the hiccups that we might experience, and then making sure that you are considering all of the different things that they might need to know in preparation for them to be successful. I think sometimes as leaders, we look at the success of the team and the organization as the primary goal, and it definitely is, but it it also is affected by the individual goals of all of the employees, right? And the individual successes that they're going to bring to the table. And what
mhm,
I mean by that is you may have newer employees or people that have transitioned into a role that they're not ready for. It doesn't mean they can't be successful, but if we're focused on the goal of the organization and not what that employee needs to reach that goal for themselves within the organization, then you have challenges, right? Because now we've only looked at a part of the problem.
mhm.
It's a lot, so I'm going to give an analogy. Think about
Yeah.
a car, right?
Mhm,
We've got a lot of moving parts under the hood. And nowadays everything's fancy. It's all done by computers and robots, right? But back in the day it was all parts and you had to take out the big pieces before you could get to the little pieces underneath. And if one little piece wasn't able to do what it was supposed to do, then it could cause issues all around, right? So we want to make sure that we're not using um, the wrong parts,
that's
or
a great
maybe we're using
analogy.
aftermarket parts, right?
Mhm,
And again, it doesn't mean that the aftermarket parts can't work, but we need to polish them up and make sure that they're ready to go to serve this broader function for the engine. Is
mhm.
that, I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
that's a great analogy. Even if you don't know cars, you know better. Like you know what it sounds like when your belt snaps in your and
Yes.
and if you
Well,
don't, you
hopefully you
will know.
don't, but yes,
You
I do.
will know if it happens to you because it's one of those like undeniable sounds. I think that's a great analogy for it because you're right. If you have someone either not in the right seat, on the bus or whatever that expression is, or you have them in a role where they have so much vagueness to their role that they kind of decide the story of it, if you will, that
Yeah.
those kinds of things can be counterproductive to your business because instead of them working, they're thinking about how they should be working, not how they are working. They're thinking about things that are not moving them forward, which means you're not moving your team forward. And if you
Yes.
can't take a moment to coach that in your
Yeah.
employee, if you don't know how to go, hey, I love this. I love working with you. Let's have a human moment. I still need more productivity. So let's have a
Yeah.
conversation about where you're dissatisfied so we can figure out where we can put you in the right seat and then
Yeah.
get you where you need to go. And I've done this so many times. Anybody who has ever worked for me knows that when I hire them, I tell them, I'm hiring you for this position. But if it doesn't work out, we can always look and see if there's another place for you in the team. Because even though people might think that the role that they're applying for is the right fit for them, or maybe they're looking at it from a financial perspective, not so much a skill set or a work output perspective, but they have a need and they need to meet that need and they're taking a job. When you have when you have people that come into your space, if you can stay as flexibly minded as you're asking your employees to stay, you might be surprised at how much better it is. Like I have one person on my team right now. We had her in copywriting. She was doing fine. She was doing fine. Like she was hitting all the standards, but she was unhappy. And it was taking her way too long to do it because she didn't enjoy doing it. It wasn't quite what she wanted to do, but she has a degree and a skill set in another area that our team needs. So we just moved her right over. We're like, now you run all of our video and photography. Thank you. And she's really good at it. Like video editing and design, all of that. Storyboarding, setting up, very professional, amazing. She kills it every time. She crushes it. And now I've got a happy person on my team. And I also
Yeah.
have an open space where I need to find a copywriter, but I have someone to fill in for now. I have my one person that I hired that I want on my team, and she's still on my team. And I love that because her buy-in, her kindness, her understanding and her learning ability and her everything about her career growth in her early 20s, because she's young, is these moments as leaders, as bosses, as mentors, they define for these younger generations coming into the workplace. They define it so big for them. And I
Yeah.
want my people to know that if they ever leave me and work with someone else and they're disrespected, disregarded, completely ignored, not treated well, I want them to be able to tell the difference from what it is to be with a boss that knows how to manage and lead versus a boss who can only do one of those skill sets, depending on who they are, or none of them, actually, which surprised me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I love that example. I will say though, because there might be people that are listening and saying, well, what if I don't have a role for that person? What do I do for them?
Yeah, that's a
Right.
good
And
point.
because I think that depending on the size of the organization, that is a real challenge. And we can't always give our employees exactly what they want.
Right.
However, I love that, you were able to find something that really inspired them. Two
Mhm.
things that I've seen in this situation that can be helpful. One is hopefully the employee somewhere along the way, if they haven't and they're listening, take notes,
Mhm.
are empowered enough that they can come up with ideas. Like it sounds like you worked with this person to realize that they really like the video editing, but a lot of younger staff members will just sit in unhappiness and then exit instead
Mhm.
of taking the initiative to say, hey, I'm really good at this. I see an opportunity in our organization for me to take some of this on, and then put together kind of a business case for your
Mhm.
supervisor and go and sit down very uh responsibly and structured and organized, sit down and say, I've noticed this. I'm
Mhm.
happy to keep doing my work, or is there a possibility we could adjust it? Maybe I could take on more things, because that's how you get new opportunities to shine. It might even be something that you don't even know if you're good at, but you'd love to learn to try. So
Right.
going to your supervisor and proposing, sometimes in the beginning you have to add that on, which I
Mhm.
know I've said this to young folks and they're like, well, then I would have to actually work more hours. It's like, I get that. In the
Mhm.
beginning, you might have to work more hours, but the payoff, if you say, could I work an extra hour a week on this, or could I do it on my own time to demonstrate my capability on this? And
Mhm.
now you've demonstrated something and you could end up getting into that role like your employee has, that now you
Mhm.
love, and you've demonstrated that value in advance. So it's almost a no-brainer for the supervisor to say, oh, wow, okay, I hadn't thought of that. I didn't know they needed that or were interested in that. Now
Mhm.
let's take a look at that. And it might
Yeah.
not be a quick switch over. It might be a graded thing, where graded like in I'm still in the car scenario, I guess,
Mhm.
like down the hill slowly or up the hill
Mhm.
slowly,
Yeah.
um, moving into that action. And
Mhm.
then from a supervisor point of view, if you notice that your employees are either have a shift, and I know we've talked about this, maybe their temperament or their personality or their energy is shifted, talking to them and understanding why, and if they aren't happy in what they're doing, challenge them to help you come up with some solutions, challenge them to help you come up with some ideas on how they might, because they may not even know, you may not even know, and you could spend all day throwing projects and tasks at them trying to hit that bullseye of what they like, and it
Mhm.
might take some time. So having that be a back and forth with, okay, I appreciate you as an employee. I'd like to keep you around. You do a great job at this. But if
Mhm.
this is not what inspires you, come up with some ideas of how within the business unit, within our business model, that you could contribute more or contribute differently. And I'm willing to give you a little bit of leeway to play with that a little, as long as you can,
Yeah.
again, keep up on your day to day, because you obviously have that person especially in a small business, they're in a role because you need them to do
Right.
that task.
Absolutely. I love that. One of
Yeah.
one of my first career bosses, like not just regular jobs, working at Starbucks and stuff like that, but like my first job was at the like full career job was at the YMCA. And my boss, she was like that. She was so good at like looking at people and going, "Oh, you're unhappy? Well, why would you want to come to work when you're unhappy? What do you want to do?" And you'd be like, "Well, I'm kind of interested in this." And then she's like, okay, here, I'll give it to you. So like what I started doing, which I loved working with her because I learned so many of my foundational career skill sets working for her by going, can I do that for you? Filling out spreadsheets, doing sales, doing metrics reports, analyzing budgets with her, like those kinds of things, just going, I really want to take on more because I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn. I didn't care what I was learning. I wanted to learn. I knew I was going to be at the Y for a long time, and I was there for almost 10 years. I loved working for the organization, and I wanted to know how to be in the organization. I was bought in. And having a boss that would allow me to make mistakes until I learned was inspiring. And because of her, I've never been okay working for a shitty boss ever. And I won't. And I don't tolerate it at all. The disrespect or anything that can come in that can impact, my moral standards or my general ethics, those kinds of things. I won't tolerate it at all. And it's because I had someone teach me my value in my career. And I really believe that when you have people on your team, whether you have them on your team for 6 weeks or 6 years, it doesn't matter. Those people in your sphere of influence are there because for some reason they bought into you. And you have two options. You can show up with intention or just show up. And the difference is huge because how they are going to take care of your clients is going to be astronomically different when they love what they do. I mean, like this morning, my kids were complaining because they're like, you work too much. Because I just, came back from Virginia. So they think I worked all 4 days that I was there, which I didn't, obviously. And so, but they haven't seen me in a few days. And I just got back yesterday. And my youngest is like, you work too much. And I'm like, oh, for this morning. And I said, oh, you think I work too much? I was like, well, that's really interesting because I think I play too much. And she goes, what do you mean? I was like, well, I love my job. I worked all weekend and I don't think I worked at all. Like I played all weekend. I had so much fun. I had fun traveling. I had fun talking to my clients. I had fun seeing my team members. Like I was like, I love what I do. And Penelope, my middle child, was like, Mom, I want to love what I do when I grow up. And I was like, you will, because I want to help you do that. Because I'll hire you, Kelly, to do her aptitude test to help her figure out what her career is in 10 years. Because loving your job is the first step to caring well for your brand. Just holistically. If you're going to protect your brand, if you're going to show up for it, you got to love what you do so that you can slow yourself down in the moments where you have to slow down before you speed up. Just show up with intention, even in difficult conversations with the people around you, so that your business has what it needs to hit the goals that you've set for it. And all of that is a part of your brand. How people show up underneath you as a business owner, or how they show up at a networking event on your behalf, how your website displays, how your social media, how you write, all of that is first impressions. All of that matters. And if their first impression is a disgruntled employee, that's not going to work well for you, right?
No, no. Well, and like, yes, exactly. And the converse of that is having a thrilled employee that just sings your praises and has nothing but wonderful. I mean, what better marketing can you ask for? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
really.
So I went through the Disney Institute of Leadership training back like 15 years ago. And one of the things they talk about is how they do what Tina calls like surprise and delight kind of energy, but it's like how they do customer service. And there's the number one asked question at Disney, at least 15 years ago, maybe it's changed. The number one asked question is, what time is the 3 o'clock parade? The 3 o'clock parade. What time is the 3 o'clock parade? So the employees have been trained to answer this question, and it is fascinating. So go to Disney, test this out. It absolutely works. I've done it. The employees have been trained to answer that question with absolute kindness because it is the stupidest freaking question, right? What time is the 3 o'clock? It's at 3 o'clock. It's the 3 o'clock parade. It's at 3 o'clock. That would be my response. I'm not qualified for Disney. I'd be like, what the hell is wrong with you? It's 3 o'clock. This is what they do instead. They'll go, well, the 3 o'clock parade starts at 3. However, here, it's not going to be here until 3:16, where you're standing. And then they'll say, but if you go sit on the sidewalk over there by that door, the ice cream shop is going to prop their door open and you'll get a cool breeze and a perfect view of the parade. That's how they're trained to respond to that question. Okay, I need to step it up in my life, right?
I'm gonna
Man,
go to Disney now and ask that. That's
no,
amazing.
ask the question. Ask it. What time is 3 o'clock parade? And they're supposed to direct you to where to stand. That would be the best fit for where you are in that moment. That's what they're supposed to do. Not to
Wow.
answer your question with an obvious 3 o'clock, right? Like
Yeah.
that's not good customer service. That doesn't care for the members and it makes them feel stupid. right? You don't want to make your people feel stupid. But that
Right.
person that has to answer that question had to be trained by someone. And that person that trained that person had to be told by someone. And
Yeah.
that person that told that person to train that person to do that had to be told that it matters that we care for our front line. It matters. So if you have people on your team, they are your number one brand ambassadors. Get rid of all the things you don't need, keep all the ones you need, and bring in the right people for you because they are your brand ambassadors. They are the ones that are going to show up to work functions or non-work functions and be like, I love what I do. I work for this company and da 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 da. They're your number one salespeople. You don't even have to pay them. All you have to do is like them and take care of them. So it
True.
matters. Your leadership skills matter, guys. That's what we're trying to say to you.
It's true. Oh, I love that. What time is the 3 o'clock show?
Yeah, isn't that brilliant? I mean, it's just so thoughtful, so
Yeah.
intentional, and that's leveling it up. I'd love to hear if anybody is watching this, whether live or watching, the replay. I would love to hear how you answer obvious questions. Just in your field, how do you politely answer? Like, I follow this one lady on social, she does HR and she people tag her and things. How do I politely tell someone to screw off? And she'd be like, well, what I've said is this, and she'll give you a professional response for your email and stuff. And it's funny because people are like, I hate my job. How do I tell my boss I'm not coming in because I'm having a good day and I don't want to be at work and ruin it? Yeah. And
Oh,
she goes
I've
and
had,
gives them like words for it, right? But the
yeah,
delightful thing is it's just like perspective is everything. And when we really do say things with intention, with tact, we can get a very different outcome. And if we're having a good day and we want a day off, but we're nervous to ask our boss to have a day off because we're having a good day, then maybe we need to develop that relationship a little bit. Like you
absolutely.
shouldn't feel scared to ask for a day off. You shouldn't feel worried that you're not going to have a job because you need to take a vacation or you need to take a couple sick days. Like that should not be a fear that people have. And when they have fear of their safety and security, which is their financial stability, then they're not going to perform well for you because their head is on, I have to pay my bills or feed my children or whatever it is, they're drowning. They're not here at work. They're like maybe 60% at work and 40% in their head. And then
Yeah.
if you cared for them and took care of them and and you're able to support them in a meaningful way, would you get 80% instead of 60? Possibly. If they knew that at the bare minimum, they may not be able to pay their bills because of whatever their situation is, but they know that they have a stable paycheck. They have a workplace environment they can go to, that they're respected, that their opinions are validated, that their thoughts and stuff are heard. They feel seen at their job. All of those things make a big difference. Even if you can't pay somebody what their value is, if you take care of them, that's more valuable than anything. Having that ability to be a real human in a job, someone to say, I don't know everything, but will you teach me? And that boss go, yes, I will. I will because I
Yeah.
care about you. I care about your development. And then when you care for them and they care for your clients care for you and they start referring. And then it's like this big like ecosystem for your business, all based off of clarity,
Yeah.
all based off of clarity. It is amazing what brand messaging can do for a business. And so if you're
Yeah.
watching us and you do not have clarity on your business, if you are not able to give a proper elevator speech, if you can't, or elevator, talk or whatever, if you can't do the bare basics, if I ask you, what do you do? And you're like, oh, a little bit of everything, you do not have a plan. Please call me. Let's get a little more focused. And then once I get you focused, let's send you over to Kelly so she can help make sure your systems and stuff are in place to make sure your team is cared for. Because we want to make sure every business sees the growth that they are setting for themselves. And if this is your year to start hiring, these are important pieces to this. So we want to make sure you guys are having what you are giving you what you need to be successful when you make these decisions for your business. And of course, as always, if you ever have any questions, comment in the thing. Kelly and I will look at it. We'll go and respond to your questions um, or even insight. Love to hear people's thoughts, opinions, workplace experiences, because we've all experienced something different. A lot of us have become entrepreneurs because we're hopeful that we can take control of our time and our lives and our financial outcomes. And we've most likely all been employed before. And we've probably all had a good and a bad experience as an employee. And so taking that into consideration, humanizing it for a moment, going, well, I didn't like how that turned out, or I loved how that turned out. I want to make sure I'm like that for my people. Those moments matter. Finding people to inspire you and to help you make good decisions, to support your team, all of that matters. So thank you so much, Kelly, for hopping on. I'm so
Of
grateful
course.
for you. For
You
everyone
too.
watching live, if you need anything, comment below and we will see you all next week. Awesome.
Have a great week.
Thank you. You too. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.